Cool. Awesome. Thank you so much. All right, guys, we've got an awesome one for you tonight. Tonight is the shame game part 2. So if you were on our first shame game, there's going to be a little bit of a recap on it, but we're going to bring some new things to shame. There's 3 things that really bog us down and weigh us down and stop us from doing things we want to do, and that's fear, shame, and guilt. And we're going to be putting emphasis on shame because it seems to be the most like obvious one, the one that seems to be plaguing people like all the time, and it tends to be quite insidious. Only because, and we're going to talk about this tonight, there's actually healthy shame and unhealthy shame. And people don't know about healthy shame, especially in like the spiritual self-development, personal development world. We just go shame, bad. But there's actually a healthy process to it. And so we're going to be covering a little bit of that. But I'm just going to do a little intro to it. So shame is a complex emotion, and it's often experienced as a sense of deep-seated embarrassment, self-consciousness, or a feeling of being exposed. And it can arise from tons of different things: perceived failure, of rejection, a traumatic event. But most commonly, it's when we violate our own belief system and our own values and our own morals. That's usually when shame rears its ugly head. When we experience shame, we may feel like we are fundamentally flawed. Not that we made a mistake, but that we are flawed and are unworthy of love, connection, and or success. The impact of shame, it can be particularly pronounced, especially in like social contexts, and it has a pretty serious psychological impact if left unchecked. One of the things it can do is actually affect your immune system, and you can become quite sick. It can contribute to things like gastrointestinal disorders, cardiovascular disease, inability to sleep, loss of appetite, and a lot of things. What I'm going to actually steer this to right now is something that I feel is quite prevalent right now. I've been noticing it a lot. And when I did the shame game part 1, everyone was like really, really hung on this. And that is shame and isolation. So shame and isolation are often closely related. Feelings of shame lead to feelings of being disconnected from others, a reluctance to engage, and shame can cause people to feel, again, unworthy of support. Isolation can further develop these feelings of shame, and it contributes to a cycle of negative self-evaluation and further withdrawing from social situations. Without social support, individuals struggle to find ways to cope with their shame, leading to prolonged sense of isolation and further disconnecting yourself from others. Breaking the cycle of shame and isolation requires a willingness to reach out for support and connection. So you're all here. We all go through shame. Love y'all. I go through it. You go through it. Here we are. And again, this can be through friends, family, or through professionals. Building a sense of community and finding ways to connect with others will help counteract feelings of shame. It's funny too, right? Because it's like, who was I speaking to? I was speaking to Andrea the other day, where it's like, you'll like be saying to yourself, like, I'm not good at this thing. And then you have like 100 people telling you that you're good at it. And eventually you just have to be like, okay, I'm wrong. Like, I'm incorrect right now. I am actually good at that thing that I'm, because the data's in, right? It's like, am I really going to believe me over 100 other people? And so by addressing the underlying shame and finding ways to connect with others, we can break free of this cycle of shame. Anyone felt shame in the past week? Put your hand up. Alexis is like, I don't know, shame-free, I think. Yeah, so there you go, guys. We're all in this together. It happens. And so I'm going to share my screen. Can you guys hear music? I don't hear music right now. Do you guys hear music? You guys do? I'm going to turn it up a little bit. Maybe I'm deaf. All right, so.
A little light.
A little light. Come on, Hang Massive. Turn it up a notch. All right. So this is what this person calls. I found this just today. I'm pretty happy about it. Can you guys see that? Did I share my entire screen or did I just share the one thing? Hold on. There we go. That's what I want. There it is. The 3 P's of shame: people pleasing, perfectionism, and procrastination. Okay. We definitely all do all 3 of these, but in the chat box, share the top 2 that get you. So which two get you the most? Which one are you like, oh, those are the two for me? So mine are definitely perfectionism and people pleasing. Yep. Perfectionism, procrastination. Perfectionism and procrastination. Yup. Yep. People pleasing, procrastination. People pleasing, procrastination. Perfect. Great. It's always a fantastic mixture amongst us all here. Okay. Procrastination, perfectionism. Yeah. Okay. So good. We're all in this together. Now, what's really interesting, and I kind of just want us all to like take a second here. I don't need to say a whole bunch, but you just picked two, right? Now, look at what they say where they cross in this Venn diagram. So mine is people pleasing and perfectionism, which means I need to seek approval. Brian, Bay, people, Selena, people who work with me. Does that sound like something that I do sometimes? Jeez, don't look too happy. So if you suffer from people pleasing and procrastination, it's likely you're not worthy of self-care or me time. Sounds like some people I know. And perfectionism and procrastination, I'm afraid of failing, so it's best to stop trying. And in the heart of this, we have shame. So right now I'm just want to open up the floor actually. If anyone has anything they'd want to say, the floor is yours. You can ask questions, anything speaking out to you, drop it in the chat. And if not, we can move on. But Bay, you look like you have something to say.
I think I'm just a little shocked that I need to seek for approval, but we did have a little bit of a talk about that for a little bit earlier. So that's just like, I think I'm a little bit like taken back. That came up for me. It's not even technically in my human design. So funny, cool, interesting.
Nice. Funny,
Really
cool.
cool diagram.
Yep. Yeah, I was pretty happy when I found it. People pleasing and perfectionism need to seek for approval. Does it sound like you, Dev? Seeking for approval? Me too. Cool. Anyone else have anything they want to like say about this? How does this make people feel? Usually when we're talking about the shame game, we're feeling shame. So it's totally okay if that's what's going through your head right now. We're going to do a really fun embodiment exercise in a moment. Accurate.
I think it's important to note that like anything, you know, if we look and find the categories that you're in, there's like, you may hold a main theme, but at the same time, all of these things affect us to a certain degree, right? So it's kind of like, how do I use an example? Like you may be, I'm a Leo sun, but my other planets are going to affect me in certain ways. So, you know, don't put yourself in a container and be like, oh my God, there's something fucked on wrong with me and I need to like work on this one thing. There's like, you know, you're a unique bouquet of this shame diagram.
Totally. Like I had people pick their top two, but don't get it twisted, guys. We all suffer from all three. We're in the middle. Right? When you got shame, you're planted in the middle. And like on Tuesday, it might be perfection, procrastination. I just wanted to kind of get that kind of going. Yeah, Eric.
Yeah, I think it's interesting to see that this diagram, like if you were to put it on like a 1, 2, 3 like what's the most to the least, like I would say for myself being perfectionism, how like my second one would then be let's see, like, oh, so the people pleasing, but just like the order of it. So when I need seek to approval, like would kind of not override, but be a little bit more on top of like, I'm afraid of failing, so stop trying. Like, it's just interesting if you were to put it in order, how you can like see that. That's kind of what's interesting about this diagram.
How you can see like, this is the first thing that I do, and then the second one creeps in, and now I'm doing that, and then all of a sudden the third one creeps in, and I'm in shame.
Right, there it is.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, cool. This is great. And so I'll drop this in our community chat group after this, so that people have access to it. That's one of the reasons why I was so excited about making our group chat, because then we can come back to this. Awesome. Okay, we're gonna move on to this other thing that I found, which I was super duper excited to find, and this was the cycles of shame, and how there's something called a healthy cycle of shame. Shame is so linked to like shame. That it's like we don't take a second to like look at like why this might be happening to further our development as a human, right? And like you know, and like I'll just like call on someone because I resonate with this a lot. I'm just gonna call on Dev. I super resonate with what you've been going through, bro, what you're going through right now. And what you're going through is to prevent you from making the same decisions that led you to this place, right? And so we go into the world and we make a mistake and we do something that is against our own moral values and we sacrifice ourselves and then we feel bad. And it's like, good, because if you felt good about that, you would keep doing it.
Yeah, but now there's even more shame added on to this because I'm not gonna lie. So like what ended up happening out of that is I ended up like talking to her about it and we've decided to continue things, but like there's been I stayed in my power basically and said like if things don't change then it's done, you know, so we'll see what happens, but yeah.
And that's still good, right? I was, it's like you were in this place and yeah, now you're walking in your power, right? And now you're like, yeah, it's like the boundaries are set and you're like, you have this like place of like, yeah, you don't need to feel the shame. You were feeling the shame because of things that you did that caused you to sacrifice yourself, but you're not going to do that again. And if you do, that's fine because it happens, but that's the
Yeah.
whole point of this healthy and unhealthy cycle. So let's just take a peek at this, guys. And then like recognize how number one incident occurs, right? We start with the incident. Something happens, right? Something happens. Incident occurs. And then we stress out about it. And then we act out, we lash, we whatever we do, we procrastinate, we blah, 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 sacrifice who we are. Then we feel shame. What happens is you can either act out again and then get more stressed out and then act out again and then feel ashamed for it again and then act out and you can just keep in this loop. And they use the words try harder, right? Which isn't the words that I would necessarily choose to use. But this try harder is like, you know, just like what you just said, Dev. It's like you went, incident occurred, you got stressed, you acted out, you were sitting in your shame. And instead of acting out and stressing it, then you're now in a position where you're actually navigating this and doing better, being better, right? Like this is something that I say often, and Bay and I were speaking about this earlier today, is it's like when you make a mistake and you do something that goes against your morals, it's okay to be like, man, like I really made a mistake. It's not okay to end that with, I made a mistake and I'm a piece of shit. It's like, no, don't do that. It's like, say, I made a mistake and I'm excited to do better next time, right? I learned from that. I'm going to be better next time. And if you want to, you can say, I made a mistake and I'm a piece of shit and I'm excited to learn and do better next time. That's okay too. But when you end it with that statement, you're learning, it's progressive. You're creating a positive reward cycle and a positive loop. And then, yeah, and then you can do better. So yeah, does anyone have anything? Brian, would you like to add anything? Persevere may be better. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of do better next time. There's a lot we could say that for sure. Persevere, I like that. Yeah.
I think this is really good because it plays on the idea that, you know, if you, some people think that, and I think this, I'm not trying to push my views on you, that there's no such thing as good and bad. And it's like, okay, if there's no such thing as good and bad, then like, what are these things and what are they used for? So what I'm trying to say here is like, bad things are things that are showing us that we're out of alignment and that we're maybe doing something that isn't of our highest. So how do we use shame in that way? It's pointing us in the direction to be of higher version of ourselves. So if we adopt a relationship with shame in this cycle that Matthew's brought forward, then it becomes an exciting opportunity because it's like, again, what I said when we were doing breath work, it's like you're observing the experience. So if you observe the shame, of course, there's feelings that come with it. That's why we need to process emotion. But then you start to have a relationship with it and you realize, okay, this thing's directing me. It's giving me insight as to where to go. And that can be really powerful. That can really shift your, that's when miracles happen. It's when you see that the darkness is actually pushing you towards greatness, but it's a bit of a harder hand. That's what I'd say about that.
Yes. I love that. Brandon, I think, nailed it. Ownership and decide to improve. That's like, yes. Like, I love that. Own it and make an educated choice to improve. I love that. Yeah, I love that so much. So, yeah, Brian, I'm gonna pass it over to you now. Do you want me to bring the music back? Bring the music back.
Yeah, brings
Because
music
I've
back,
I've got it the whole time.
Sweet. Yeah, that was great, Brennan. Let's use that phrasing.
Yeah, but before we move into practice, does anyone want to share anything about gratitude, how they're feeling, how any of this has anything sparked anything in this? And yeah, no, good, right on. Thanks guys. Okay, cool. Thanks, Brian.
Yeah, no worries. Let's see here. So what I wanted to guide you guys through is just a little meditation. It's kind of like an embodiment practice. And what we're going to do is we're going to try to find the place where shame in regards to either procrastination or people pleasing or perfectionism. Yeah, thanks, man. So just get clear on that right now. Actually, I'll just get you to close your eyes. Close your eyes. Let's take a couple of deep breaths. Let's get back to that place. Just remember that place, that feeling that you go to where you're in deep meditation. You're feeling centered, like take in that sensation that the earth energy, this profound planet, this mother of ours, is giving you that support, letting that ground you. Then feeling this energy from the sky, this father type energy, this infinite possibility, the support coming down. And just feeling unwavering connection to the moment. Take a nice deep breath in. And then bring to mind that one of those 3 P's, the one that hits you the most, the procrastination, the people pleasing, or the perfectionism. And you know the one that it is. Now, in this safe place, in this grounded place, in this divine centering that you've created, allow the emotional current from the association to that word to come in. You know, what does it feel like to be a people pleaser, to procrastinate, to fall into the perfectionism? And as that emotional signature, that alchemical process starts to come alive in the body, continue to breathe, just let it happen. Remember, you're witnessing the process. And just ask yourself internally, where did this begin? Try to come back to childhood if you can, or if childhood is hard to remember, go back 7 years. Usually we cycle things in 7 years. And just keep affirming to yourself or asking internally, where did I learn that I need to do this, or that this is something I need to do to be perfect, or to please others, or to procrastinate? It might just be a feeling. It might actually not be words. There may not be a certain age, but just trust that what's coming up for you is what's necessary and needed at the time. And as you connect to that part, you know, that young age or the sensation, all that's moving through, feel as though now that you're calling in your highest, what you truly are in your totality, to give so much space and so much gratitude for this part and for this learned aspect. Why? Well, you know why, because that part is doing exactly what it thinks is best. It's not doing anything wrong. And when you come into that vibration, it's not doing anything wrong. Feel that for yourself. I haven't done anything wrong. Taking it a step further, really calling in that higher version of yourself now. Can you allow this process, this learning, to be an idea or a lens that you look through that says, I chose to learn this. I can find ownership and gratitude in this pain and this suffering. You can try on the lens if it works for you, you don't have to. And then lastly, just ask that your higher self, this version of you that's gone through the lessons, that has overcome the obstacles, just ask that it give you the feeling of love, that it shows you how much it loves you. And receive that. Allow yourself to receive. What does it feel like to take in that love from the version of yourself, again, that has accomplished every goal, has surpassed every barrier, that has made every dream come to fruition that you could imagine, and that they're just beaming this acceptance, this sensation of pride and awe and wonder in what you are right now. And just let yourself have that. You have permission to have that. Taking a deep breath. And as you let that come in, just noticing if there is a certain type of sensation or a certain type of word or an image. And lastly, just remembering that this is all you, that all of this beauty lives inside of you, that the feeling of strength and love that comes from within. So I'd like to remind myself and you that there is nothing outside of you that's giving you this, it's you. So you can rest in that for a moment, remembering that you've connected to this part, and that this part exists, emanates, resonates, births itself from you. That you already know this. Take a couple more deep breaths, and as you take those deep breaths, invite the process of coming back. Know that your body and your mind has a natural, organic process for coming back into this moment as you step out of meditation. Just feeling yourself come back. I'm going to count down here just a few counts to really come back. So 5, feeling the sensations of the body where you're sitting. 4, deepening of breath, noticing the light in the room, the temperature. 3, body becomes a bit more heavy. 2, 1, take a nice deep breath in, and we're back. Open the eyes. Really good work, everyone. Thank you. Really, really good. So if anyone would like to share, would love to hear the share. And what I always say is, like, the share is like, think of this experience like a sphere, and we all have a different perspective of the sphere. And when you share, you're giving your perspective, and then we get to see from your side. And since we shared the whole experience, each of us has important information that can be helpful. So your share can be anything, and it's think of it as a gift as opposed to taking up space. So if you'd like to, just put your hand up or put yourself off mute. You don't have to share, just an invitation. Yeah, brother. Go ahead.
Whoa. Yeah, I was like, yep, people pleasing, that's easy. And then you were like, yeah, go back to childhood. And I was like, yep, dad, that's easy. Dad hasn't said I love you to me, I'm proud of you to me. I have no memories of it ever. And like, I remember when I was a child, he would like, I literally have memories of him saying to me, like, learn faster. I actually have memories of that. And then you said go back 7 years, and it was like wham, because 7 years ago I was in a super toxic relationship with someone that, like, I was a door-to-door sales manager. She was doing her master's of genetics at Western, and like I was like, just, oh my God, like in such a people-pleasing state. I completely sacrificed myself in the relationship, like completely doing whatever I could to appease this person, to get her approval, and just like, and I was sitting into that, like, oh my God. And I was going into there because I haven't ever gone back just 7 years before. And then it was like, said, call in your higher self. And me right now came in. to like my childhood and then said like, you're not doing anything wrong. What you're doing is actually good. You're on the good path. And then me right now went to me, 7 years ago, said the same thing. Like, you're not doing anything wrong. You're on the right path. And then it reminded me of something that I teach people all the time, which is like, oh, that was impactful, which is like if everyone looks at themselves 5 years ago, right? Everyone look at yourself 5 years ago right now. You look at yourself 5 years ago right now and you're like, oh my God. Like, nah, what was I thinking? Who was I? Like, what the hell? That's crazy. And then if that person looked 5 years back, they would do the same thing. Like, oh, right? And so we'd be ignorant to think that 5 years from now, we're not going to think the same thing about who we are right now, no matter how good or bad it is. And then again, 5 years from now. And so I was just like thinking about like, whoa, like, yeah, like 7 years from now, all the things that might be bothering me right now, I'm gonna be having the same conversation with myself, which is like things they actually do just get better. Like, I'm way more awesomer than 5 years ago, and 5 years before that, and 5 years before that, as far back as it goes. And it was super impactful for me. That's all I like actually have to say. I don't know if that like helped at all. But yeah, whoa, goddamn, 7 years ago, Matthew. I love you so much, bud. Holy shit, you were going through it. Fuck.
That's awesome, man. Thank you for sharing. Anyone else?
Yeah, I feel like sharing just something really small. About, I've done so much work on my childhood, but I've never actually done work on like 7 years ago. And that just opened up like this huge can of like stuff that I got to work on. And I was like, awesome. Because I worked so much on my childhood. I'm like, there's nothing else I can work on. And I didn't even think about my party years. Like, there's so much there. And I definitely know I have a lot to work on. So thank you.
You're welcome. I can't remember where I got the sevens from. I think I read it in the presence process. I always like to give credit where credit's due, but yeah, for some reason sevens are very usually there's like a cycling or a process that occurs. So if like, oh, that's remembering now. So I'll just share with you all quickly. Like trauma, or like when you're triggered by someone, it's like what the trigger is it's a messenger. It's telling you that, hey, this wants to be worked on. And usually that trigger came about 7 years ago, usually. Or if it wasn't 7 years, it's 14 years. And you just keep going back until you find where it was. And then you do that process that we just did, and you give yourself compassion for whatever it is that you needed at that time. Because when people trigger you, it's not about them, it's about what they represent. Yeah. If anyone else wants to go for it. Yeah, babe.
Yeah, so it was really interesting because I've been really trying to like think about, where do I seek approval? And it's definitely come from my relationships. Like, usually my partnership's one of the biggest things. And when I thought about it 7 years ago, well, I actually went really far back and was like, where did this come from? Where my pride comes up and is like, I don't need approval. I'm like, so my mom, like, I didn't get as much approval from her and felt like I wasn't ever really good enough for what she wanted. So I was like, well, I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing in my life. Like, it makes sense to me. And I was like, you know what? No one else approves of what I'm doing. I'm good with whatever I'm doing. And I know this is what feels right. But I remember 7 years ago, we sold our Kumon franchise that we had for 20 years. And my family said, we've had this for 20 years. You should continue with it. And my partner was so mad at me for not continuing to take it on. So we had a good clientele. And I remember like the weight was, my mom's like, we could keep the 100,000 or you can take it yourself. And in my head, I was like, shit, like to rebuild something worth 100,000 at that point, people were paying 40,000 to 70,000 for Kumon sensors then, but someone was willing to pay us way more than what others were willing to. And I didn't know how else I was going to do it because I didn't finish university. So I was like, how else am I going to be able to provide for my partner and I? And it was just like this weight of like, I wanted his approval so badly because I wanted him to believe that I made the right choice for us, because I felt like I didn't agree with how the system worked. And I really, really wanted something else for kids in the future. But like, which is why we're building what we're building, but at that time, it was like, I wanted my partner so badly to tell me like I made the right choice. And it was just really cool because seeing where I'm at now, and it's like, I don't feel any shame at all for that, right? And I was talking to Matt earlier today about how, like I carry a lot of shame for how it affected my partners over the like periods and fear that I would traumatize them. And then I worked really hard in this last one and I felt like I've progressed, but then continuously being like, but I still caused trauma. Like, and I almost went into this really like dark place, like, fuck, I should never go back into a relationship again because I'm going to cause more trauma. And then we talked it out. We're like, no, it's okay. Like all I can do is try to do better next time. Right. And I think that's just like, it's beautiful because 5 years from now, I feel like I'm going to be in a much better place. And just that reminder, Matt, like what you were saying is like 5 years from now, we're going to look back at this and be like, oh, little bae, it's okay. You didn't know. Like, it's all good. And still be able to provide that love. So yeah, thanks for taking us back through that. Cause I thought that was really, really, it just brought back so many things I hadn't thought about in a long time.
Most welcome. Thank you for the share. I didn't know all of that about you, babe. It's it's good to see more aspects of you, and thanks for sharing. Absolutely. Okay, let's see. Eric, I think you're up next if you still want to go, brother.
Sure. Okay, so what I got from that is like just on my current daily, just trying to find gratitude where I'm at in life right now, because sometimes I'm still trying to learn why I'm here in California. I'm not actually a California native. I come from Chicago, and the hardest thing for me where perfectionism comes in is like I was training to be a gold medalist for the Olympics and figure skating. And so I just feel like I always had to, seek approval from my coach, my parents. And, it was just always tough. Like, I mean, even the competitors like that I was skating with, like, literally did become the gold medalist. And so it was just kind of like always something that I was beating myself up about, because it just made me feel shameful that, maybe I wasn't on the ice long enough, or like I didn't put in that time and what have you. I mean, I did step up to the plate and to make it into a professional career. But I think where I still struggle sometimes to this day is that I feel like I started at a young age of feeling like I hit my highest peak, like, like touring the world and like doing a lot of things that maybe a 20-year-old wouldn't normally do, to the point where it was really, really low for me was just trying to start over and doing jobs that I would, I hate saying it, I feel guilty saying it, but finding jobs where I feel like it wasn't good enough, or like I'm embarrassed, very shameful, and it's hidden me away from ever admitting that. And so sometimes I go into that private mode. But sorry, moving into the being grateful and finding gratitude is that like right now, like finding this collective of like me having the guts to like say all this stuff, because this is like all new to me. But to just keep the faith and knowing that this is like the uphill part for me, and entering these programs and entering this whole container is just like beyond belief. Like I've never had such a spiritual connection until I've started this. And this is a new year for me. It's a new month. It's a new everything. But I want to feel like I can get back to that top of the mountain and then some. So what I'm trying to say is like I'm starting to learn that even though it might not feel like I'm back there yet, that I totally have gratitude for like doing something about it instead of just putting it under the rug and going through vicious cycles of bad habits and all that. So that's what came to me. So thank you for allowing me to share that.
Oh, thank you, brother. You bring a lot of value to these groups, and over time, I know you'll see it more and more, but it's like, that's actually the work is like, when I say remembering, it's like we remember, and then we see like, oh my gosh, I've actually been this amazing person my whole life and I never really saw it. And that's the process, like what is healing? Realizing that there's nothing wrong in the very beginning. So I just wanted to share that. You bring a lot of value to these calls, man. Your openness, your energy, like it's felt. It's very much felt. And so thank you.
Thank you guys. Thank you.
Can I piggyback off of that for a split second? I just want to add to that. Like, yeah, Eric, you're 100% right. Like, it's funny. I don't remember who was on the call. There was one of the calls probably a couple of weeks ago, but I remember at the very end, everybody was sort of signing off. There was Bay and Matt that were still on it for sure, and we were talking about this breath work that we're doing towards the end of the call. And one of the things that sort of came up for me was this vision sort of thing, or this feeling of safety of having literally like the people in this group around me in the middle of, it was something to do with the Africa. We were in, the music was African themed or something, so I felt like we were in Africa or something like that. But it was literally like the safest place of just like people around you that like you're safe around. So Eric, like just when you share like that, it definitely, like you say things like, you know, you're on the uphill of, you know, your journey. I like literally imagine like walking up a mountain with you being like, hey, yeah, a few more steps, let's go. Like, you know, we just got to get to the top. Like, I love that the container offers that to support each other. So you're not alone with that feeling at all.
Thank you, brother. Thank you so much.
Yeah, baby. That's what these calls are all about. Yes. Thank you, guys. That brotherly bonding too. That's something special there. You know, a lot of men are missing that vitamin, the recognition from another man. Thank you, guys. Mara, I know you wanted to share too. I did not forget.
Nah, she's like, no.
No. Oh, only I'll give a gentle push. Come on, but I won't push you too
Give a
hard.
gentle push. Come on.
It's just like a
Not
little.
enough. That's enough. Oh my God, that worked.
Come on,
I
want to see
couldn't.
you share.
I back to 7 years when like I was heavily into weed, but then it was like the shame and guilt was more so like was more prominent. Maybe I think it was like 3 years ago when I was heavily into cocaine, and like it was just like I was basically trying to just destroy myself because I felt like I wasn't good enough for anybody, my family, my boyfriend at the time, just yeah. And I never thought I would get out of that, like that pit. I actually just accepted that I was going to die an addict. And I was thinking like, I'm so grateful that today I can say that I've been almost 21 months clean from cocaine. And I stopped smoking weed on March 2nd of this year. I did have a relapse after like almost a year off weed. And again, that shame and guilt started to come because I'm like, shit, I relapsed, I messed it all up. But then I had to be kind to myself and realize that, you know, I wasn't in the right environment for my recovery. And I took the steps to basically get myself out of that environment. And I had to take myself out of a relationship and learn to really love myself first. And even now, like going through, I didn't share this last time, but I'm going through a very traumatic experience that happened 2.5 weeks ago, and I'm still sober. So that's like, I'm very thankful for that. And I'm just, this is my safe place. You guys are my safe place. Yeah.
Mari, thank you. You've inspired me to, you know, with your openness about your process of addiction. You know, I think it's important for me to share. I think a lot of people, like maybe all of you may see me in some light. Oh, Brian, he's like this meditating guy and he does breath work and he has all these insights. But I struggled with bulimia for like many years. Like binge eating, purging, up, like the craziest type of shit. And what you said there about the relapse, like the reason I'm sharing this is because like what changed something for me was I realized like one time I went like 4 or 5 months without binging and purging, and then I had like one of the worst episodes where I like ordered food and threw up and then ate more food, and the next day I was in the shame game. And then I realized I was like, I'm not starting over. Today is now, and there's only now, and the past is what I define it. So in that moment I decided, I was like, no, I'm not starting over. I was like, this is the present moment, this is right here, and I'm not gonna like keep going in this cycle of being like, okay, it's day one again. I mean, it's every day's day one, but I just thought maybe that would be helpful for you because like, yeah, the grips of whatever type of addiction or cycle or whatever process we're going through, it can be really, really intense. So I think it's important for me to share because like maybe you guys don't know that about me, but yeah, like that like gripped me for a long ass time. So thank you for sharing, Mara, and for seeing this as a safe space. Oh yeah, juiciness.
Oh damn, I didn't know that.
Yeah, thank you so much, Brian, for sharing that. Like, had no clue. Really valuable, you guys, for opening up about these things. Very, very, very much appreciated.
Pleasure. Yeah, Dev. Yeah, brother.
Yeah, like I do really appreciate being like comfortable and saying all this stuff in the group. I wasn't expecting it. Like when Bay was like, "Yeah, just join the group and and see what happens," right? And it's just like it was a shot in the dark. But like even coming into the conversation today, like I felt shame because I was like, "Oh, like am I gonna have to tell everybody that like I'm still seeing my girl and like and how I felt before and everything and like and even right now it's like I was worried about how other people would think of me, right? And now that you guys have opened up, it's like okay, like I shouldn't be so hard on myself. Like we're all here to talk to each other, right? And that I should feel open to that. So yeah, like I do appreciate the group and all the wisdom that's spread amongst each other, so yeah, like I kind of feel the shame, but I'm trying to push myself past it and be like I'm better than I think I am, so yeah, just thanks.
Welcome, brother. Yeah, I mean,
I just
oh yeah, go for it, Steph. Yeah.
Yeah, I was actually thanks to Deb for sharing that, because I was noticing shame come up in me, which like around like my share, because I didn't even share about my experience. And then since Deb spoke about that, I was like, oh yeah, I should do this. The whole thing is about not having the shame and really like, yeah, expressing yourself. And anyways, I felt called to share that because I'm just calling myself out. So thanks.
Thank you, Steph. Yeah, as you all can see, whether you've shared or not doesn't matter. Like the potency of sharing. And as Brene Brown says, if you want to know about shame, read about Brene Brown. Like the way we get rid of it is just by shining the light onto it, whether it's your own light or whether it's other people. It's really helpful when it's other people. But yeah, like what helped me also with my bulimia is I started telling people that I was like, yeah, like I'm binging and I'm like eating and I'm like smoking weed and I'm like hiding in my own house, and like, so we got to tell each other about this stuff, and if we don't, we create this idea in our head that there's something inherently wrong with us, and there's nothing wrong with you. You're going through that so you can learn, and probably so you can teach other people how to get out of it. That's the game. That's what we signed up for whatever reason.
Oh yeah, totally. Whoo! Like tears are here. I don't think you guys can actually see it, but holy moly, it's like every single call for the past like probably 6 calls, I've been like, no, I'm good this time. I'm good this time. And then it was like Eric and Mara and then Steph and then and Brian and Dev. Yours broke me out of everyone's. Yeah. Oh God, I'm so freaking proud of us, of everybody here. And it's like. Shame leads to isolation, which leads to shame. And it's like, it's a hack, these calls. Like, I got my morning and night routine back dialed because of these calls, because of the accountability. I've been opening up about everything, and watching you guys has been so inspiring for me to carry into my everyday life. Like, I've been diving deep into this sauce for like a decade and like practicing it. And some people are brand new. They come on here and they're just so candid about it. It's like, okay, you guys just really motivate me and inspire me to like come on here. And like, look at all the men on these calls. Like, holy shit, right? Like, whoa, there's like, like Brandon just left, but like, and like, obviously women for sure, but like women are known to talk and be vulnerable, and men are known to like isolate it and repress it and die in our 70s. And so like, just mega props, guys. Holy cow. I know we're over a little bit here. So next week is going to be much more about the power of gratitude. These shadow work and gratitude calls have been like 95% shadow work, and we've been going deep in there. Next week, we're going to bring a lot of light to all of these because gratitude is actually a superpower. Eric, you kept saying gratitude, kept saying grateful, and you know, we had some other things lined up. Brian and I, every single call, Brian and I prepare for them, and we get through half of what we prepare every single time. So it's like next week we're going to be talking a lot more about. Did you want to share something, Ricky? Yeah. Beautiful. This floor is yours.
Hi, everybody. I just was like, as I'm listening to the call, I'm writing. I write a lot, and I'm paying attention. I know I'm like dozing off. I'm not dozing off. I'm looking at other places and whatnot, but I'm like taking notes. And when you said 7 years ago, it brought me back to like a past relationship that I was in. And but even before that, I thought back to like where it actually came from, because like that relationship was a symptom of like my upbringing. Like the brain likes familiarity, so it'll seek out similar situations to feel comfortable, even if they're not healthy for you if you're not aware of it. So I look back deeper past 7 years, because I was like, it's just, I want an answer. So by doing that, I realized that like my people pleasing came from my parents, or lack thereof, essentially speaking. I was raised by a single parent, my mother, and my dad was like in and out of my life, and constantly like abandonment issues, trying to like try to please, and like if I act the way people want me to act and be what I want, what people want me to be, everything's gonna be okay, right? But I guess in my mother's attempt to make me like grow and develop and be just like be better and more perfect in a sense, she kept moving the goalposts. And for someone like me, that was like, fuck you. Like, I'm done running. I don't want to keep doing this. Right? So I just felt like there was no end to it. And because there's no end to it, it's like, what's the point? And it's like, what's the point? And then you get mad at yourself for not doing as much as you're capable of doing. So then that starts to you feel shameful because you're not achieving anymore. And you start kind of like, okay, well, I know this makes them happy and blah, 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 but ultimately they're not really happy with themselves. So you start feeling like you're being taken for granted, not appreciating you. And it's like, how do I get this like people pleasing, which is really a mask for you don't feel good enough. Like, how do I unpack that? And then I started realizing that I need to create a safe space for myself. But then I thought that's kind of like a hyper independence reaction to people pleasing. That's when I realized I need better boundaries. And then I realized I need more action taking. So that's where I'm at right now with that. And yeah, I thought it was interesting. Like listening to your stories, I was just like, oh damn, like issues that people don't talk about enough is like issues with your own body, how you feel, trying to find yourself, approve of yourself. But yeah, it was, thank you guys for sharing. But yeah.
Thank you for sharing. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. I don't think I would have gotten this far on my own. It's like you just sometimes need that little like thought process to just like, oh, that's what it is. Like, I kind of also wanted to share something else. It's a little bit off topic, if you don't mind, but like it's kind of similar to what we're talking about. I was really like on this journey of like figuring out how generational curses start, how they happen, because ultimately it's like when someone is projecting on you to a certain extent, depending on how close you are to that person, usually if they're not like that close to you, you can tell this is all you. This has nothing to do with me. I feel for you, but I'm not like gonna take on your issues because I don't even know you, right? And then it's like, how does this happen? And then I started realizing what you were kind of doing earlier, Brian, with like the meditation and the breath work. It's you're changing your cellular structure, and it's like for your body. And I thought it was kind of crazy because I was reading up about this Japanese scientist and his water study, and how he was able to like speak words of positivity into like these little droplets, and like the patterns that formed based on the positivity versus negativity, they were very different. And like the negative ones were very dysfunctional and like chaotic, and like, oh, that makes sense. And then the water was very like, it was almost like a mosaic. It was this like constant like kaleidoscope pattern that was like pleasing. And then I started realizing that we're like 70% water, our bodies or something. So it's like, oh shit, I need to like be a lot nicer to myself and create these safer spaces for myself, because this molecular structure that I have, let's say I was to get pregnant soon and I'm going through trauma and I haven't dealt with it, that's stuck in my body. At birth, that gets passed on. And I have this little mini version of me who's acting out problems that never really happened to them, but I don't really understand it because I never dealt with it myself. And I'm like, oh damn, that's what my mother and my dad were going through. And I was like, holy shit. I don't think that was my theory. So I was like, that might be right. And then I thought about it today. I'm like, when if it's just like sip all this out, if people are gonna get it, if I sound crazy or not, I don't know. But I think it's right.
I hope everyone was listening, because that what you just shared is gold and worth its weight in gold. Like, yes, super amazing share. Thank you for sharing that. Like, what you're shining light on is the power of vibration, and that, like, what are we at the end of the day? We're structures of geometry, and that geometry, when you further down, is energy, right? So it's like, what is forming the energy? And it's like, it's a certain quality of vibration. And I love that you mentioned, like, you're doing that work for your parents and their parents before. Like, this can bring a really huge power towards when we do internal work, is remembering that, like, you are the byproduct of all the other lives that came before, and your body, like, you just were born into this body and it's been evolving for millions of years. Like, just think about how insane that is, like how much information that's in the body that you're coming into, and all that genetic information. We carry all of that inside of us, and it's our choice, but also our responsibility to bring it into its highest expression. That's what they mean by, like, doing the work for our ancestors, is like, when we start to change the way we believe about ourselves and we do this type of work, the next generation, they get the benefit from that. So, yeah, exactly what you said, Ricky. Like, such a great share, and hopefully that makes sense to everyone. Yeah, thank you, everyone. Whoa, I love these containers. I'll just say really quickly, is like, because I know we didn't do a ton of gratitude or really any at all, but just place a hand on your heart for a moment. And this is a nice way to, like, if you want to understand the language of the body, it's all just sensation, but we can reaffirm this whole process by closing the eyes and breathing in deep and just allowing gratitude to come in. If this is the type of work that you're into, which I imagine it is since you're here, I just like to affirm myself after these types of things. So just let the gratitude pour in for a little bit, and yeah, maybe like make a sound, or just remind yourself that you're doing the work and that you showed up, and that it's not about the outcome, it's about the continual process. It's about showing up to really discover what we are, and also realize that, like, we'll never really find out what that is, but that's the point. So inviting in that gratitude, letting it saturate you, reminding yourself what it feels like, and giving yourself the gift of love for no other reason than you can. There's a need to be a reason to love yourself. You don't need to give a reason to feel gratitude. You just can. It's your birthright. Thank you, everyone. When you feel ready, you can gently open your eyes.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you, guys. And thank you all so freaking much. I said it before, I'll say it again. I literally, like, you guys, this is my favorite part of my week, these calls, seriously. Next Thursday, I'm gonna shed some light on why gratitude is actually a superpower, spiritually and scientifically. And in the meantime, practice it. You go into the shame game, be grateful. It could be anything. You can actually be like, I'm grateful I got 2 hands and 10 fingers. It works. Pick something, be grateful about it. Practice that gratitude, gratitude, gratitude. The more you practice it, the more commonplace it'll be, and it'll change your state. Whew. Thank you guys so much. I really love y'all. Honestly, thank you, Brian. Thank you, Deb, Steph, Andrea, Ricky, Eric, Mara, Bay. Thank you, Alexis. Thank you, Brandon. I love you guys all so much. We'll see you guys. We'll see you guys on Monday. Bye, everyone.
Thank you,
Bye, guys.
guys. Bye. Love y'all.